OMG. So get this. Damian Lillard is back with the Blazers, which sounds like the coolest story ever, right? Like everyone was all, "Oh, how sweet," when he decided to come back. And yeah, it is a nice story. He tried to go win a championship somewhere else, but it's pretty dope when legends finish their careers where they started. Plus, he can rehab his busted Achilles with his usual docs, which is clutch, and be near his fam. And the young guys on the Blazers get to learn from a total icon. Like, the vibes are just immaculate.
But here's the thing. Vibes don't win games. Duh. The Blazers are still deep in a rebuild, which, surprise, they started when they traded Lillard in the first place. They showed some flashes last season, but they're still a long way from being a real contender. More like a play-in team. And that's where it gets kind of weird. How does Lillard even fit into all this?
Okay, let's talk money. For the 2025-26 season, it's actually pretty simple. Even if he sits out, he fits perfectly into their mid-level exception. They basically cleared out money to give him that exception by trading DeAndre Ayton. Maybe they could have used that exception on someone who could actually play this season, but there weren't really any good players available 2 weeks into free agency. And even if they could have used it in a trade, this team has plenty of depth. They need star power, not more role players.
Lillard used to be that star power, obviously, but now he'll be 36 and coming off a torn Achilles in the 2026-27 season. Portland actually had a shot at having a ton of cap space in the summer of 2026, but now with Lillard and Drew Holiday on the books, that's gone unless they do some crazy stuff like renounce all their free agents. And they are not renouncing guys like Shaedon Sharpe, who they picked 7th overall. So say goodbye to that 2026 cap space unless they make even more moves. Now think about 2027-28. They already owe Holiday, who will be 37, a ton of money, and Jerami Grant, who will be 33, a ton too. Add Lillard at $14 million, and that's over $87 million for 3 guys who will definitely be past their prime. And get this, if any of them somehow play really well, they have player options and can just opt out and demand even more money.
Isn't that a super weird spot for a team that's supposedly rebuilding? Especially since all their young guys will be demanding max money around then. Sharpe needs to get paid soon, either with an extension or in restricted free agency. Scoot Henderson is in the same boat, but his next contract kicks in for that 2027-28 season when Holiday, Grant, and Lillard are all still making bank. Okay, let's talk about Sharpe and Scoot for a sec. One reason they took on Holiday's long-term contract was supposedly to clear out Anfernee Simons to make room for Scoot and Sharpe. Both those guys have crazy athleticism and have shown flashes, but neither has proven they're a true franchise cornerstone yet. This season is basically about seeing if one or both of them can actually become that, and Lillard being around might help them, sure. So whose team is it really going to be? What happens when Lillard is healthy? If Scoot and Sharpe don't end up being the future in Portland, Lillard will probably just take his starting spot back in 2026. But then, what's the point of the team? Are they trying to win now with an older, likely less effective Lillard? They wouldn't even have a good reason to tank anymore with the way the roster is set up. Are they just waiting for those Milwaukee picks from the 2023 trade to come in? The whole franchise outlook gets pretty bleak if Lillard is running the show when he's back. The best case scenario, obviously, is that Scoot and Sharpe have insane breakout seasons. But then, what does that mean for Lillard? Is he cool with coming off the bench? You never know with superstars. Even old man Chris Paul apparently still wants to start. And guys like Carmelo and Westbrook had to be dragged onto the bench, like kicking and screaming. The ideal situation for Lillard would be like Dwayne Wade coming back to Miami. Wade only started twice in his second stint with the Heat and played like 25 minutes a game. Even a not 100% Lillard could totally help the Blazers in that role. This team desperately needs someone to create shots. They were 22nd in offense and 26th in three-point percentage last season. Even a smaller dose of Lillard could make a huge difference, regardless of what Sharpe and Scoot do. But who knows if Lillard would even accept that kind of role. Portland could try starting him with Sharpe and Scoot in a 3-guard lineup, but that would totally mess up the defense-first vibe they had going last season and might take a starting spot away from a young guy like Toumani Camara.
And all of this is before we even get to Drew Holiday's situation, which is pretty similar. He doesn't have the same history with the team as Lillard, and he wasn't quite the individual superstar Lillard was,
but he's a Hall of Famer meeting a starting gig on a championship team for a question mark on a team that hasn't made the playoffs since 2021. Would they have even traded for Holiday if they knew Lillard was coming back? We'll never know for sure. They're different players, but Holiday was brought in partly for his culture and leadership. Lillard can theoretically do that for way less money. It's not bad to have veteran leaders, but it can definitely clog up the rotation. So does all this mean Portland messed up by signing Lillard? Nah, not necessarily. It's a questionable move, not a bad one, but it definitely makes you wonder what their plan is for the next few years. The price was low enough, especially with that weird third-year player option, that it was probably worth the gamble.
At least the fans will love it, and there are totally ways this could make sense basketball-wise. If Lillard is back with the idea of gradually taking a smaller role and retiring like Wade did, then it's a slam dunk. If Portland has another move planned to get rid of Grant's bad contract, then that third year of Lillard won't sting as much. And if Scoot and Sharp explode this season and credit Lillard for their success, then the contract is totally justified. It's also totally possible this was just a way for Lillard to get his money while he recovered from injury, and then he'll get traded to a contender of his choice later. He'd probably have to take the minimum if he went straight to a contender. Portland had that mid-level exception they weren't using, so he could get a bigger contract there. And once he's healthy, he'd get traded easily, and the Blazers could even get an asset back. Hall of Famers hate coming off the bench, and they really hate minimum contracts. Plus, Lillard got a no-trade clause in this deal, and after all the drama with his last trade request, if he leaves Portland again, it'll only be if he wants to. But given everything, you can't totally rule it out. So, while that first heartwarming thought was totally reasonable, your second thought after Lillard rejoined the Blazers was probably about all the crazy basketball questions this move brings up. Lillard and the Blazers might have some solid answers in the coming years, but right now all those questions are hanging over Portland as they try to go from a surprise second-half team to a legit playoff contender and beyond.